and welcome everybody. It's good to reconnect on this Friday. And, it's interesting, Robin and I were reflecting back on the past year, and this month now represents a couple of anniversaries. Number one, it's COVID, which is, unbelievable what we've all been through in the last year, from a lot of change and pivoting and haircuts and kids and managing technology at home and homeschooling. And there's been a laundry list of things that I know we could have never imagined would have changed. It's also our 1 year anniversary of starting these best practices masterclasses. And so we are really thinking through, good, thanks for the thumbs up, John. We're really thinking through how we want to continue these. We plan to continue these. We're also thinking about starting a different type of monthly workshop where one sort of workshop becomes much more technical and is solely focused on Coachmetrix and usability and getting things implemented in your business. And then having a separate session that's really more focused on coaching and growing our coaching practices. So we're bouncing these ideas around. If you've got any feedback, we always love to hear your feedback. You can do that through the survey at the end of the session, or you can always email Robin or myself at any point in time. Today's masterclass is going to be focused on leveraging resources. And I'm excited about this one because I love the whole idea of leveraging resources. My mind is very process oriented. And so in our work in coaching, we leverage the heck out of this feature in Coachmetrix. And so thanks for joining us today. We're going to explore this, and we're going to make this session very practical as well. By the end of the session today, what my hope is that you actually will have built a resource in your own Coachmetrix account. So hopefully you'll have there'll be a practical element of this for you today. Whoops, looks like I'm already at the end of my slideshow. Let me stop sharing and get to the beginning of this thing. Our intent for these masterclasses, as you know, if you've been on these in the past, is not only around Coachmetrix, but to also build the Coachmetrix community. So we hope that you start to get familiar with some of the folks that are here and reach out to each other and connect and build some connections within the community as well. So here's what we're going to do today. We'll start with a check-in, just because it's nice to hear what people are experiencing and find ways to help each other out. We'll focus most of our time on strategies for leveraging the resources feature in Coachmetrix. And then we're going to spend some time where you literally open up Coachmetrix and build a resource. Maybe, John, you mentioned you've got a program coming up. Maybe there's some tips and tools you'll learn from this session that you can integrate into that program. So a couple of key questions just to get the conversation started today. It's been a year with COVID. What have you learned from this past year? Maybe professionally or personally. Number two, what changes do you anticipate in the workplace? We know that a lot of clients are now starting to talk about what's going to happen in the future of work and how we're going to bring people either back to the office or not back to the office or some hybrid version. What do you anticipate is happening? And number three, how have you adjusted, or how do you expect you'll continue to adjust your business? So feel free to answer any or all of those questions, but love to hear from a few folks. What are you learning? What do you anticipate is going to continue to change? And how have you adjusted, or how do you anticipate you'll adjust moving forward? Feel free to jump in, take those mics off of mute, and love to hear from a couple of folks.
I can jump in first, I guess.
Oh. That's okay. All right, Joe, go to John, then we'll go to Jacqueline. Thanks.
Well, I yield to Jacqueline.
Okay,
that's
great.
What should a honorable man should do.
All right, let's go to Jacqueline, then we'll head back to John.
Well, you know what, John? We live in the year 2021. So how about you go first?
We've got some very polite people on this call today.
I think that, I appreciate your deferential, I don't know if it's gender-based, but I'll be happy to go second, John.
Thank you.
All right, bouncing back to John.
Yeah, well, I'm specifically niched in my coaching and consulting. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's going on in the rest of the world, but my arena is the disaster restoration industry.
Okay.
And these are companies that go in and clean up after fires, water, hurricanes, and all those types of things. So our industry is kind of recession proof. So what I'm finding from my clients, depending on what state they are, is how do they service properties to be able to get in there. So whether they do it from a standpoint of virtually, or they have people off site, or actually people going into the property. So uh, they're not shutting down. We actually are having banner years.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I
Okay.
have to deal with, and that's the reason why I'm completely redesigning my service lines and my framework.
Okay. Good to know. Yeah, there are some industries that have, as we all know, been crushed, and others that are quite literally having those banner years. So that it's almost like there's this tale of two economies that is happening in our country and globally as well. Thanks, John. Jacqueline, what are you noticing either with your client base and or in the business or the industry, and what have you learned and how are you adjusting?
Sure. I mean, I think we all can hope that the economy is going to come booming back, or maybe that'll continue to take time. I think people that were reluctant to engage in coaching are much more open, but they want to say, and how will you measure it, right? So they want to say, can I
Yeah.
get feedback? And some of the leaders that I'm working with, they continue to say, which is true, the higher up you go in your ranks, in your leadership,
Mm-hmm.
the less feedback you get. So I think
Yeah.
people that were probably more inclined to shy away from coaching are saying yes, but what kind of feedback can you provide for me? So
Interesting.
it's been its own selling point, Sal, to have that, because people
Mm.
still are saying, well, this is an investment of time and money. What can I get during the process to let me know if I'm making progress?
That's such a great point. We know that just by the nature of leadership, senior and executive leaders get less and less feedback, and um, that's terrific. And hopefully, Coachmetrix is helping bring some of that feedback into those coaching conversations.
It is.
Great.
It is. Thank you.
Yeah, good to hear. Thanks, Jacqueline. How about others? What are you noticing? What have you learned from the last year, and how are you adjusting?
I don't have to explain what Zoom is anymore.
No kidding. Yeah, for real, right, Bill? Like everyone is pretty comfortable with this virtual environment.
And actually, people have gotten so used to Zoom in the past. I do a lot of team coaching, and I have a
Yeah.
very niche market as well. I do rural health leadership, so leaders that run rural hospitals.
Right.
And so they've been hit hard financially. However, they received CARES money that they have to pay back if they don't use. So I never sell coaching. I sell results. And so I reinvented my coaching into the COVID-19 recovery project, getting back to normal. And I mean, that's kind of what team coaching is all about. So a lot of rural hospitals that were struggling financially were able to use CARES funding to pay for that.
Wow.
So
Wow.
reinventing, always reinventing.
Yeah, I think that's part of what we have to always, be on the lookout for is how can we shift? How can we reinvent ourselves? Bill, when you're doing your team coaching, is it virtual or are you going on site? What's that look like for you?
That's virtual anymore. In fact, if I used to do it partially virtual and partially in person, but now I've got so many clients that if I had to go see someone and travel, because I have clients I live in Florida, I have clients in California, Montana, Michigan, Indiana. So if I had to travel, it would screw up my schedule so bad that I don't have to travel anymore. So,
yeah. And it sounds like the receptivity of the virtual team coaching has gone well for you.
Yes. Although there are people, some of my clients do want to have some of the larger workshops that we do. They would prefer that it be in person someday. So we'll see when that day comes.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. It is interesting. People's mindset around working virtually, I agree, has completely shifted. And we're also seeing the same thing in terms of there are now teams that are more and more receptive to doing this work virtually. I just did something the other day in a team session that was really, really good. One of the coaches that I was working with had suggested it. We were doing a highly vulnerable exercise where team members were sharing elements of their style and what was important to them. We had everybody else in the group turn off their cameras, and we had them also put the speaker in speaker mode, in speaker view. And it was incredible. Like, people were talking about that. And it just added an element of intimacy and vulnerability in a group team virtual environment that I think was really good. It was really solid. So for what that's worth. Guillermo, welcome. How are you today?
Thank you. Thank you. Doing well. Doing well.
Good. Yeah. And yeah, are you noticing anything in your world?
Well, one of the things that caught my attention from the last comment on working with them to go back to normal, I think that needs definition, because what is normal? They are not coming back to the same situation that they had before. So what we have experienced is that teams are embracing working virtually, not because they like it. In fact, many of them are like, I really miss you guys in the same room. I really hate this way of working. But at the same time, they are understanding, well, this is a new way of working. So we better embrace it and make the best of it. Yeah. So I think that's happening a lot. And along those lines, I think that there is a lot of work needed on how to help people to embrace this new normal, because it's not like the one that they had before. There's a lot of frustration on more hours in front of the screen, getting tired of Zoom meetings, and different things that we know that even for our brain it's been a lot of work, because when you are one-on-one, you are watching, or you're in front of one face, and here we are with a gallery view in front of 8 faces, and trying my brain doing the extra effort to try to capture all the movements and reactions and all that. So it's creating a lot of exhaustion working this way. And I think a lot of people need help on how to embrace the new way of working and how to do it. But I agree with team coaching. Actually, in the international coaching community, we have a team coaching certification. And for several months, the founders didn't want to move that from face-to-face to virtual. But then some of the trainers started doing it, because at the end of the day, they said, well, teams now work virtually. So you better be able to coach teams virtually, because they are not going to be in the same place. Right. And it's possible. We have a project now that we were working with a bank, a team of 14 people, that we did a face-to-face 3-day event a couple of years ago, where they have to travel from 4 or 5 different cities to get together here in Houston. And now we have been working for the last 6 months with them, where we meet every other week for 1 hour or 1 hour and a half. And we continue working with this team of 14 people. So it's a new way of doing it. It's a different dynamic. I think there are some things that become an advantage and people love, like not traveling, but there are others that are actually very frustrating, and people is just like, they are just like getting used to it.
Yeah. Again, the adjustments here, the 1.5 hours every other week, a year ago, I'm not sure we would have considered doing that, or maybe just a subset of people were doing that. So brilliant. So there's some pros and cons of this. We're all trying to figure our way through. Any other comments before we move on about what you're noticing, or how you're adjusting, or what you're learning?
I don't think any of our consultants want to come back to the office.
Interesting.
I think they like working at home. Our federal, state, and county clients have adjusted quite well to finally working from home. And we're still not sure when they're going to all be back in the office. It'll be quite a while still. I have a feeling we may renegotiate some of our office space in Falls Church, and a lot of people will be working remotely So it is a lot easier when you were talking about travel, Bill, I think it's a lot easier to change appointments now because you're not driving in all different directions. It's just a different Zoom call. So that has helped flexibility.
Yeah, it sure has. Yeah, thanks, Tony. It's interesting that your consultants are really liking not being in the office, or maybe preference to being at home. So interesting to see.
They were mostly client facing anyway. They didn't spend a lot of time in the office. Anyway. So they were just driving all around downtown DC and Maryland and everything. So I think this has they fought it tooth and nail, but they've adjusted.
Right. Thanks, Tony. Johnny, is there anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I'll just add real quickly because I know we want to get onto the other things. I think there's going to be new technology that's going to be coming. I don't know if anybody here has been on Remo. I had a Remo experience the other day. It's kind of that conference idea of having virtual tables. And I thought that was a very unique and rewarding experience that expanded some of the Zoom features that we have now. And how do we incorporate these into these virtual live events where you have some of that networking that can happen that water cooler talk, so to speak. So I'll be very interested in seeing how they solve that problem because, it's the proximity that people in the office have as far as meeting other folks that they wouldn't necessarily run into. And so I'll be curious about that. And then the other thing I was curious about is the new normal of hybrid Zoom calls where you have people in person and people on Zoom. I think that'll be interesting to see how people identify with that, because if you're in person, there's advantages there that you don't always get when you're on Zoom. So does everybody go Zoom? Because now that we've all had that familiarity and there's technology that everybody has in their desk, but what does that solution look like? Very curious about that.
Yeah, that I think helping facilitate conversations with clients around that and topics like that is going to be, I think, certainly a great role for us to support our clients with. Awesome, everybody. Well, great to just touch base there quickly. I think there's so much value in those comments and just getting a sense of where people are across the country and what they're doing. I'm going to jump in and shift the focus now for the rest of our time together today. And we're going to talk about resources. And what my intent for today is to do today is to plant some seeds. So I'm going to spend a couple of minutes, maybe 5 minutes, planting some seeds on different ways in which you can use the resources feature. This is probably one of the deeper dives that we've done in this particular feature in these masterclasses. And then what I'll do is I'll share some of examples. But then we're gonna use this as a working session. I'm gonna ask you to open up Coachmetrix and build something on your own and to see. So I'm gonna plant some seeds that hopefully may spur some ideas. As we go along, feel free to jump in either with questions or ideas on how you're using this resources feature. I think it'll be pretty cool to share what people are doing. All right, so let's jump in here. And I've got 4 strategies on how to use resources. Now, some of you have heard some of these strategies already. So I don't want to bore you, but I'm going to, I think, share some ideas you might have heard, but hopefully there'll be some new ones here too. So number 1, and I'm thinking in terms of like the customer life cycle. So, or the client engagement life cycle. What happens before an engagement, maybe in the early phases of an engagement, during the engagement at any point in time, and then maybe even post engagement. So before an engagement, there's a couple of things, couple of ways in which we've used Coachmetrix, or the resources feature. Number 1, you've heard me talk about the welcome kit. And then number 2, some reflection resources. So I'll talk about the welcome kit first. Most of our coaching engagements, and you might find this in your work too, start the same way. So why not use a resource or a collection to get that repeatable process happening the same consistent way on your engagements? And if you've got multiple coaches, Tony, I know on your team, you've got 8 or 10 or 12 different coaches or more. This can help also create some consistency across the start of all your engagements. So let me show you a couple of ideas and some sample resources on how we've done this. And I'm just going to show, I think I'm going to share my, I'll share my desktop instead. So let me move this down. Robin, can you see both my PowerPoint and Greg's Smithy?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I've got a couple screens, which is why I wanted to double check that. So if I go into Greg Smithy's resource account, one of the welcome toolkit that we've built, and by the way, we loaded sort of a mini version of this into everyone's account. So you'll probably see this in your account. You can take it, modify it, or build your own. But we start with just in the body of the resource. And by the way, this is a collection. So let me step back. For folks that are new to Coachmetrix, a resource is really any combination of text, images, document, or PDF uploads, or some attachment, and then links to video. So you can do any number of things, and that's how we define a resource. A collection is when we pull resources together into some kind of logical formation. So if you're in your resources tab, you'll see the resources at the top, and then you'll see all the way down at the bottom, we've got a bunch of resources in this test account. You'll see collections. And so collections just pull any number of resources together in some logical manner. And we'll show you a number of ways to use both resources and collections today. But this is an example of a welcome kit. There's some text up front, welcoming our coaches to clients to coaching. And then this is the collections portion of this piece, which is there's multiple modules there. In this particular case, we recorded a welcome to coaching video where we give our clients some tips on how to get the most out of coaching. The great news about it's a 2-minute video. We can use this on all of our coaching engagements. This particular video is hosted on Vimeo, and quite literally just copying a link into the resource to build that piece of the collection. We also add the Coachmetrix roadmap. Now, this is also available to you. This is on the community page, but this is just a nice little piece to give our clients an overview of what the coaching process is going to look like. We include coaching agreements. We include some information on how to start their 360 process. Most of our coaching engagements start with a 360. And then finally, a tool that we use called the Leadership Dashboard. So what we want to say is, when you think about how to use resources before an engagement even starts, the welcome kit is one great way to do that. Another good way, so let me pause there for any questions. I know that I've talked quite a bit about the coaching welcome kit on other masterclasses. Any questions or thoughts about the welcome kit? All right. The second way in which we might use resources before an engagement begins is to give your client some pre-work. So a couple of weeks ago, one of our clients asked us to start a new coaching engagement. And we said, great, we can start 3rd week in April. And they said, we really need this person to start immediately. So we gave that person some pre-work. And we set them up with a Coachmetrix account, and we gave them some pre-work. And in this particular pre-work exercise, we shared with them a resource about creating their own leadership vision. And inside that resource, there was a short video about vision, a reflection, some text about the process. There was an attachment that had a toolkit on how to craft their vision, and some reflection questions. And so we can immediately start engaging our clients in some pre-work before the engagement begins. And again, once we've got this library of resources built, it just becomes a matter of taking that, whatever it is. In this particular case, we shared this leadership vision. Again, there was a video, some text with some content, and then a downloadable PDF that had those reflection questions and was inputable, so editable, so that the participant could save their responses. So once we've got that built, again, we can share that with any of our new clients. But that was a way in which we leveraged a resource before a client engagement began. Again, feel free to jump in at any point if you got any thoughts or questions. All right, so the second strategy is when we think about maybe some activities that might happen in coaching early in your engagement. In this particular case, we see three things that typically happen in our engagements. And again, they're almost very repeatable. So our clients go through a 360 process. We have a resource that shows our clients how to reflect on their 360 data. We have a resource that shows clients how to create their action plan. And then we have a resource that gives our clients some information on how to enroll their supporters. So I'll quickly go over to back into Greg Smithy's account, and I'll just sort of show these to you very quickly. I don't have them there, so I'll just go into the resource itself. The 360 reflection process is actually a collection. So excuse my screen share here, but I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom. And in the 360 reflection process, again, there's a little bit of text up front explaining what it is. And then we have 5 steps on how to reflect on their 360. Number 1, examine your reactions. Again, this is just very simple text, but it provides a guide and structure for our clients. Number 2, look for patterns. Step 3, compare feedback between your raters. Step 4, write about or reflect on the ideal image that you have for yourself as a leader. And step 5, it directs people back to the action planning area in Coachmetrix to start creating their action plan. The only thing that we have in here is some text, and then this is a screenshot of the action plan area in Coachmetrix. So that's an example of the 360 reflection process. I'm sorry, that's 360 reflection process. We also have a tool on action planning and how to create your action plan. So as an example, again, there's some text up front. There's some instructions on how to create their action plan. And then we've got step 1. Here's how to create a SMART goal. This just is some text along with a screenshot from one of our participant workbooks. That's all this is. And then step 2 is here's some examples on how to create your behaviors. We found with some of our coaching that clients get a little bit caught up on how to accurately or effectively write their behaviors section of their action plan. And then step 3 is some examples of what to do with the additional details section of the action plan. Our process is very simple. We just want our clients to create some action items and to identify the support that they need. So this gives them some examples and some additional tips on how to create their action plan. We also have a resource on how to, how to enroll your supporters. So as an example, and Bill, you've been through Marshall Goldsmith's certified stakeholder certification process, but it's very important to go public with your action plan and enroll your supporters. In Marshall's world, he calls them stakeholders, because people will just be much more engaged in the pulse feedback process. But it also will help people know what you're working on and help change perception as well as behavior. But we've got a resource on how to enroll your supporters, and it's up here somewhere. Maybe I don't have it in here, but it's just some text with some instruction on some things to say and some steps to take. So let me pause there. Any questions on these types of resources that we're building early in the engagement, or any ideas on what you're doing early in your coaching engagement, resources that you might have built?
Hey, Sal.
Yeah.
Just wondering, I see these resources as kind of those repeatable process. What happens for those resources that are really unique to that particular individual? Whether it's an assessment, and maybe you've addressed this, so I apologize if it's a simple question, but yeah.
Yeah. What's an example of that, Johnny? It's someone's assessment, or?
Yeah, if they have a particular assessment or something that that's a resource that wouldn't be necessarily something that is for your other clients, because of course it's unique to them, and something that you want to hold. I see this as a container where we can,
Right.
you know, refer back to it, right? So there's a consistency, because I want to encourage them, right, to log in and to use Coachmetrix. So this particular resource could be, you know, maybe it's the 363 for leaders, or something else that they could get somewhere else, but I want them on Coachmetrix.
Okay, gotcha. So one idea for that would be, and I'll open Greg Smithy's account. One idea that you could do is you could use the discussions feature to share as an example, the 363 for leader. That data is specific to your coaching client. You don't want anybody else to see it. But what you could do is you could create a repeatable template. And let me see if I have an example of this. I don't have a specific example, but the templates feature is over on the left-hand side of your account, Johnny, and you can create any number of templates. So anytime you send a repeatable message, you can design it and it'll store it inside of this templates library. And then when you go to create a discussion, you can just select your template from the drop-down list that'll show up. So you could create a template for a certain type of assessment and what you want people to do with it, and then you can select it, it'll pre-populate it, and then you can upload the person's template data. Oh, I'm sorry,
there you
363 data.
Gotcha. Yeah, I didn't see, I saw the link. I didn't, so okay, so the attached files is right there, okay.
Yeah, the attached files here, or you can drag and drop the file into this area.
Gotcha.
So the template would allow you to give people a set of instructions on how to use the data or what you want them to do with it. And then you can just attach the 363 or whatever the profile is to that discussion.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So I'm going to go back to.
Quick question.
Yes.
How do you use the templates in the resources? You just drag it from another window to the resource, or how do you pull a template in the resources?
The template feature is just for discussions. So what happens is in your templates, you're going to build a template just by clicking on this create a template feature. And it could be, well, this is an intake session message. This is one I built previously, but you're going to name the template. You're going to give it a subject, and that'll show up in the subject line of your discussion. And then you can put anything in this body. It could be text. It can be, you actually can't attach anything into this body at this point in time, but you can build that template, but that template is just used for discussions, Guillermo.
Okay. The reason I ask is because in a way I did something similar to your welcome kit, because I created a template that was like an initial questionnaire for the new client and another template that was like the coaching agreement. But I am using it as discussions, but not sending them as resources. So I was wondering if I can have a resource that pull those templates and or a collection that pulls templates or something like that.
Yeah, well, you can, if you build a resource, it effectively is a template. Yeah. So you could, as an example, if I go back in Greg's account and I look at his welcome kit under resources, everything in this welcome packet is standard. And then all I'm doing is editing the name and sending it out to the participant. So effectively, resources really are templates already. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Of course. All right. So strategy number 3, things to do with resources during the engagement. Part of the intent of resources is that you're building a library here, and everything stays in your library. It's housed in your library. And then when you're ready, you can send those resources out to any participant on any of your projects. So the idea is, and what I know about coaches and trainers and facilitators is we have a ton of content. And so why not take some of that content and build a library of resources? So we've built resources such as the building blocks of feedback. You've seen me share that in the past, or maybe you've got a SWOT analysis, and this is really just some text and a screenshot of of an existing workbook that you have. Or for those of you familiar with Marshall's work, his daily questions process. And you may have even seen his new movie that came out, The Earned Life. He actually demonstrates some of that during the movie, but there's some text. We created a template that we use with our clients. And then I just linked to a video that Marshall has on YouTube. Or, you know, pretty much any tool that you already have in your toolkit, you can use and build a resource. And then as that coaching engagement is progressing, maybe after a coaching session or before a coaching session, you can send those resources, those specific skill-based resources out to your participant to support that coaching process. So that's another way in which we've used resources, or we recommend using resources. One final strategy, and then we'll give you some time to build resources, is you can also think in terms of using those collections as micro-learning courses. So some ideas here or strategies here are repurpose your blog content. So I'll give you an example. Over the last 5 weeks, over the last probably 6 or 7 weeks, and we release typically a couple of blog posts a month, we have been, with a big picture in mind, we've wanted to create a micro learning course in Coachmetrix on personal foundations. So vision, values, identity, needs, and tolerations. And this is some reflection that we like to have our clients go through. But we really wanted to create a course inside of Coachmetrix. So over the last 6 weeks, we've released a blog post, a template, just a PDF toolkit, and then I've recorded a video. And we've packaged all 3 of those things into a blog post with the intent of pulling all of those posts together and building a collection around personal foundations. So I'll show you what that looks like today. But it's a way in which you can leverage work that you're already doing, a podcast, a blog, video, and then house that information inside of Coachmetrix so that you've got these resources and tools for your clients to use. And you know, the buzz in training, it's been like this for a while, but this whole idea of bite-sized pieces of information, chunks of information to help people learn along the way can really add a lot more value to your coaching engagement. When we think about some of the competitors that are creeping into the marketplace, organizations like Better Up, as an example, they go to the market with a coach, with a platform, and with content. And you can do the same. And the resources feature is really your opportunity to use that or to build out that content. So if I go back to Greg Smithy's account, I'll just show you this example of this personal foundations toolkit. And this is still work in progress, but I just wanted to give you a quick snapshot. We pulled this together yesterday morning. We've got an image of the process at the top. We've got a welcome message to the leaders. This image will be replaced with a video that's getting edited right now. A welcome message to any participant that's going to use this, this collection. And then inside of each collection is a video. There's the text. And then there's the document outload or the toolkit for that particular exercise. And then there's the same thing on values. Again, there's a video at the top. There is some content and then a toolkit. And identity, same thing. And human workplace needs, same thing. And so we're trying to take the work that we're already doing, repurpose it, and then build a resource inside of Coachmetrix. All right, so let me open it up for questions, thoughts, ideas, maybe even some strategies on how you're using resources. And then let's have a bit of maybe a 10-minute working session here. What are your thoughts, questions, reactions?
I have a question. So
yes.
Every time I see this, I feel bad of how underutilized is by us to work with different things and resources. And I also have been considering for many months to get one of those platforms for online training or online course where you develop your trainings and you put them like Thinkific or Kajabi. So I guess the question is, how do you see this part of Coachmetrix position against Kajabi or Thinkific? What are the limitations? Is it going to get to that level? What can do or can't do? How do you see that?
Yeah, you know, and I think about Kajabi, and I just recently looked at a course. At its basic level, what I saw this trainer doing is she had a video, she had some text, and she had some attachments. I think that those platforms will probably always be more advanced than Coachmetrix in terms of delivering content and training. I wouldn't say it's our core competency as it is with theirs, but it can do a lot of what they're already doing, and you already have the platform. So we intend to continue to update and make improvements to the resources feature. In fact, the next feature that we're releasing is going to be an improvement to the resources feature, where you're going to be able to, if you have sub coaches on your account, where you got multiple coaches working with you, your coaches, you'll be able to basically take a resource and publish. It'll remain private to you as the account owner, but you'll have the ability to make that resource public or to share it with the other coaches that are on your team, and then have those coaches share it to their coaching clients. So we are continuing to make improvements, and we always will. But those platforms are specific to e-learning and more of that kind of learning management system, if you will. So the pro of using Coachmetrix is it's a feature that you already have that you don't have to pay for additionally. You're probably going to use the same content whether you put it in Coachmetrix or whether you put it in Kajabi.
Thank you.
Yeah, I use both Kajabi and Coachmetrix.
Yeah, how does that work, Bill?
So, but I use Kajabi strictly for training, just for the training stuff, and Coachmetrix is for coaching.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know. Are you using any of the resources features within Coachmetrix, Bill?
Yes.
Okay. Great. Other questions or reactions? Johnny, have you experimented with the resources feature at all in your coaching?
Yeah, I have, and I'm learning, because we're also, it's timely question about Thinkific and Kajabi. So I really appreciate the conversation, because you know, that idea of one to many, I think that's where that Kajabi and Thinkific work. And maybe Bill could probably speak to this better than I can, but that's how we're structuring our business, in that, you know, using Thinkific and Kajabi for that one-to-many training aspect, and then that one-on-one intimate coaching relationship is where Coachmetrix, I think, really helps, because then we can get really customized into that. That's where that resources, if there's a way, I guess that was the source of my question, is that unique one-on-one relationship. If there's a way to have resources tied to specific clients, other than maybe in discussion, I don't know what that looks like. I'll leave that up to the designers, but that's where it could really be a benefit to that one-on-one relationship.
Okay, great. And is that one of the distinctions, Johnny, that you see between Kajabi and then the resources feature in Coachmetrix?
Yeah. The intimacy of Coachmetrix, from what I've been experienced thus far, really contextualizes that one-on-one relationship, where that Thinkific and Kajabi, I think, create opportunities to get everybody kind of on that same, like, to get used to your language, to get used to your style, right? So there's, you know, a way to get more broad reach in that, but then use that platform to get the one-on-one, right? If you looked at the Ascension model, right, the higher ticket coaching should come from that one-to-one, and that's how we're looking at it. And so certainly open to discussion on that.
Yeah, that's great. I love all of this. And by the way, we're thinking about running a masterclass on different technologies that are out there. So we may pull you all into some of that conversation. Tony, what are your thoughts?
We've been using Teachable for our online training. We have a lot of online training. We have workbooks. We've taken all of our paper workbooks and taken them into Adobe and made them fillable. So everything is online, yeah. And people are really liking that. And we were famous for big, thick workbooks and materials and handouts and all of that. And because of COVID, we had to make those changes very, very quickly, and they've been very well received. There's one class going on right now. It's a quick start management. Theirs is all still hard copy that we had to mail out individually, but almost weekly, I have someone emailing me say, "Can you send me that in an online version?" I'm like, "Sure." And so that's been really well. So I agree with what the others were saying is, nice. That's our e-learning platform. And the Coachmetrix is definitely for a much more intimate setting of coaching and even team coaching.
Right. Okay, good. That's great. I love the distinction of the one-to-one, the word intimate, and then also the one-to-many. Let's try something right now. Open up Coachmetrix, open your Coachmetrix account. Let's see if we can create a resource. And my recommendation would be open a couple things. Number one, open Coachmetrix. Number two, go into some content that you already have. Maybe it's a PDF workbook. Maybe it is some participant handouts or something like that. Open that up and create a resource here. And let's have, kind of a working session, and feel free to ask me and or any others on what you might build, but think in terms of what text can you add? What can you already leverage from tools you already have existing? Where can you take a screenshot of a tool and insert an image? What attachment could you add? Are there any videos on YouTube or Vimeo that you can copy and paste into that resource? Maybe it's a video you already have up there, or a masterclass you've already recorded, or maybe it's someone else like Marshall's work or Brene Brown on vulnerability or something else. So images, documents, text, uploads, and feel free to jump in with any questions or thoughts. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll copy some text from either, maybe it's a book that I've written or a handout, and then I'll paste. But if you right click and paste, you can paste without formatting. So the format will show up a little bit cleaner, and then you can reformat it inside of Coachmetrix. And then once you've got that built, is there any brave participant today that would be willing to show what you created? So this is going to be, no, Tony said no. Okay, we won't call on you then, Tony. No problem.
Once I get mine loaded, I might be willing to share for sure.
All right, awesome. That's great.
Hey, Sal, while we're waiting on that, I'm actually working on two different computers, so it'd be hard for me to share. This is, though, something I did is I bundled some resources together, made a collection. And
awesome.
That's really important. So I'd done some of the things I use with almost every client, made it a resource and pulled it in. But now I put Dan Goleman's Styles of Leadership, his classic article, an IDP template, and an executive presence, because many clients ask it. So now I have a collection. So
there
thanks.
You go. Are you willing to share that? Just share your screen.
Well, it's not that I'm unwilling. It's not that I'm unwilling to share, Sal. I'm on two different computers.
Oh, gotcha.
So I'm joining the meeting. Yeah,
okay.
and this is my coaching personal computer I've got. I would be happy to otherwise.
No worries at all. I love that, right? Because it's work that touches almost all of your clients. In the body above that collection, you can always customize the information in there. So if you're working with Susie,
Yes.
you can change her name and then you can send it
Yes.
out to Susie. And Johnny, maybe this is how the resources can become more personalized. To your point, you can build the resource, and then when you send, remember that resource stays in your account, doesn't get sent, but you can personalize a message in the body of that collection or the top of the resource before you send it out to people.
Yeah. I think it's tricky when that resource is a PDF that's unique to that particular.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
Right.
That is the, that is true. Yeah. Because I was going to say you could edit the resource and then send it. Or maybe you've got a collection with sort of some standard things underneath it, but in the body of that collection up top, you could edit it, type their name, attach the assessment, and then send it. But then you would have to remember that that assessment is attached. Before you sent that resource to somebody else, you'd have to delete that assessment.
Yeah. And I think that's the unique nature. That's what makes Coachmetrix, a powerful differentiator compared to Kajabi and Thinkific, because of that intimacy of keeping that specific resource in top of mind or some place within the relationship, and it might get lost in those discussions. I haven't had enough of experience, but somehow separating them from the other discussions that are really important, and then remembering, oh yeah, that's right, that a particular resource was sent out at the first conversation, and now we're into our 25th conversation, whatever that might be.
Right. Yeah, that's great. Good input, Johnny. Thanks. Guillermo, how's it coming? Are you able to build something there on your end?
Yes, and I have a question for you. I was playing with having a YouTube video from our channel that has like a video blog that we have. Nice. And when I pasted, I added the link function to add a URL. But now in the resource, it's like a small screen and a large screen. So it's...
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, so you copy and pasted that link into the resource, and it's showing you a big video and then a small video.
Mm-hmm. So should I do it without linking the URL, or is this normal?
Yeah, that's a good question. Let me pull up YouTube really quickly. I've seen that happen, and Robin, we might want to just take note of that. I'm not sure why that happens actually. So I'm gonna I'll show my screen as I'm doing this, Guillermo. So I'm over here on YouTube, and this is a podcast that we ran. If I click on share and I just copy is that what you did? Did you just copy that?
Yes.
Yeah. And then I go back into Coachmetrix and I give it a title, Future of Work.
I did it different now, and I know what happened. If you copy the URL and paste it in the resource, it's going to leave only the large square for the video.
Okay, gotcha.
But if you paste it and then you add the link and paste it again, then it's going to create the small window as well.
Okay, gotcha. So just copy that one link, that's it?
Yeah.
And then paste it, and you can see how it'll...
That works well, but when I pasted the first time, since it was not underscore like a link, I thought that I needed to add the link, and that creates the double window.
Gotcha. Yep. Okay, great. John, how about you? You've got a new program coming up too, and one of the things that I had opened up on my screen is this leadership toolkit. This is from our People First Leadership Program, and you can do all sorts of stuff here. If you just do a screenshot, well, I should probably move my screen out of the way, but like I might want to take this image and add this into a resource. I can do a screenshot and just drag and drop that image into the resource. What did you work on for your resource? And you're on mute, John. John, okay, gotcha. 1 minute. While John's looking for his unmute button. Any other? Okay, there we go. We got him back.
Yeah, I was working in trying to pull over one of my training programs, strategic planning. So I did, but I was still working on it. So I'm really learning this whole program from the beginning.
Okay. Yeah, cool. Well, as you do that, let us know if you've got any questions. I'll show you one other thing because I know you're building a leadership program. If I go back to Greg's account, let's see if there's another way to use resources. I don't think we talked about it, but you could create, like if, let's say you had 4 modules of your leadership program, or maybe you got 5 workshops or something over the course of 6 months. You could create a workshop packet, if you will. And inside that packet could just be, again, some text. Maybe one of the modules, this is a collection, maybe one of the modules has some prep work for people to do. Another module has a tool that you're introducing during the program. Maybe there's also a video. Guillermo, this is the one where it's if we pasted it the same way you did too, so it's showing the video twice. And then the fieldwork assignments. So it's got the pre-work, tools from the session, and then a post-work assignment in a nice packet. And we can share that as to each participant. That might be another way to help organize your leadership program.
That's a very good suggestion. I like that.
Yeah. So we're coming up on 11 o'clock. I can stick around for a few more minutes. If anyone's got more questions, happy to do that. I just want to thank you for joining me for this. And Guillermo just left. Thanks, Guillermo. We love any of your feedback, either in the post survey that will come out to you, as well as you can email myself directly or Robin directly, both in terms of how Coachmetrix is working, features, changes, improvements that you'd like to see, or anything else in terms of masterclasses and what you'd like to see us cover in the future. So I'm going to stick around for a few more minutes, but I want to thank you all if you need to sign off, and please let us know how we can support you.